there's a lot of myths out there about what you shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of red tape, just like there is with oh, you're pregnant, don't bend over. It's like, you're not a delicate flower. You're a strong woman carrying a baby here. Hello everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I am your host Kath and I am joined again by Jennalea. Thank you for coming back.
Excited to be back.
So for anyone who hasn't already listened to Jennalea's previous episode, we dig into just a really little bit about what you've been doing, and then we talk about your story. So listen to that prior to coming into this one. I started to ask you some really interesting questions in that previous episode from my own curiosity, but I get to do a bit more of that now. So I'm excited to go over some bits here. So just so in case someone is coming to this episode before your previous one, can you just talk to us a little bit about what you do?
Hello, I'm Jennalea. I am a clinical nutritionist. I'm also a yoga teacher. I teach a lot of prenatal yoga as well. And I'm a mum of 2. So very, very busy, but also very, very dedicated to this space of helping mums to be, feel their best and to have a really healthy pregnancy.
Amazing. So what led you to focus on nutrition for reproductive health and hormones?
I was definitely interested in that space prior to having my own children. And I had a mentor at uni in my final year who was a dietitian in the space working for Melbourne IVF. And I thought, oh, that sounds really, really like something I'd like to do one day. I just don't know if it's right now. And so when I finished uni in 2017, I started toying with the idea of working in gut health because of my own gut issues. That led me to become a nutritionist in the first place. And then as we were getting closer towards COVID, without knowing COVID was coming, of course, I was starting to toy with the idea of hormones and libido and helping people with their diets and improving their libido and improving things like their menstrual cycle. And I really enjoyed that. And then I fell pregnant during COVID and decided, actually, this is something I really love. I'm going to go back to that initial gut feeling in uni and pursue this and have a really narrowed down niche of come see me if you want to get pregnant, because this is what I do. And since really formulating that niche, I've really thrived in this industry, but also in myself. I love it. I love it so much that, to me, if I'm not prolific in this knowledge, then I need to continue to study it. And I think as a nutritionist, you always should be studying, but I just can't get enough.
It's in you now.
Yep, it's in me.
So talk to me about like if I was to come and see you tomorrow, what does a clinical nutritionist do?
Kath, are you sure you want a 3rd child?
I don't want any more children. I love my children.
No, I would absolutely welcome you with open arms. So obviously, if it was you, I'd be like, well, okay, you've had children before. Tell me about that journey. I always want to know about how someone has gone about their other pregnancies, or if someone has been pregnant in the past. That's really important information. I want to know where they're at in their journey. Are they just starting to actively conceive, or are they waiting 3, 6, 12 months? Have they got any underlying health issues that they're aware of? Thyroid issues, autoimmunity, celiacs, things that can really impact fertility that we need to rule out first and foremost. What's really important to know if someone has any metabolic issues in their family history, so if they know about diabetes or if they've got PCOS themselves, anything that could impact their blood sugar levels. So we're going over basically every system in their body, including their metabolic health, their family history, and then we take a really deep dive into their diet and to start to fill those nutritional gaps. What are they actually eating? Are they eating consistently? Because if we're going to build a baby, we need consistency, we need energy in to create a baby, to create life, and we need to really improve the environment that baby is going to be thriving in.
Yeah. So obviously all of this is so important to know, like, prior. Lots of people don't though. So why do you feel like nutrition is such a foundational part of hormonal health and fertility?
Because we need our nutrition to formulate certain cells and to build a baby, like I said before, to create hormones. If we're having a low-fat diet or we don't have much cholesterol in our diet, then we can't create steroid hormones, like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, which are critical for reproduction. And so it all starts with diet because diet gives us energy. Diet helps us sleep optimally. We need to sleep optimally to produce certain hormones as well. So it all comes back to the building blocks.
Yeah. So when you're, I guess, because food, like you've said, is that real, it's, I say basics, but like it's something that we're all doing every day. We're eating every day, but potentially for most of us, not consciously. So like, is most of this for you education and, you know, as well as all the other bits that fit in that? Like, what does a consultation, other than digging into that, you know, you're getting a really good picture about what their health looks like and their history. What does a consultation look like without giving away all your secrets?
No, absolutely. And that's what I say to people who I meet with for the first time. My job is to inform you, and then it's up to you to make that informed decision. I'm always going to tell you everything I know so you can feel really empowered in the decisions you're making. I do see myself as an educator in that way. And honestly, I think initial consults could be podcasts in themselves, the amount of stuff I talk about. Like, wow, that just came out, didn't it? How'd that land? But also it's really important for me to have my clients have really thorough blood tests done so I can analyze that too, because I'm not looking at them as an 80-year-old woman or an 18-year-old boy. I'm looking at them as a woman at reproductive age. So I need her markers to be in a particular range for optimal pregnancy. So it's quite thorough, I guess, in that sense, and it can take more than one consult. Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm not going to change someone's life in 75 minutes, but I'm going to get them on the path to where they need to be.
So I guess obviously that preconception part is incredibly interesting from like getting to take that picture before you actually know, you know, what the next steps are. What does it look like for pregnancy? Like you and I, again, listened to Jennalea's previous episode before because we talk a little bit about this, but what does it look like if, you know, in pregnancy you can't tolerate, you know, eating this optimal diet that's for growth and development and optimal health?
Absolutely. And I think that's why preconception nutrition is of utmost importance, because you're literally charging your nutritional battery before you even get pregnant and calling on all those stores throughout the pregnancy, particularly when you cannot. If you cannot re-inoculate the diet by adding fresh greens, blueberries, salmon, or you think of all these foods that are so easy to eat on a day-to-day basis. The moment you're pregnant, you have aversions not only to food but to smells. And the reason why we can taste our food is because we can smell. It's our senses, our olfactory senses. So that's really a big struggle for a lot of women, particularly in their first trimester, maybe even up to the whole pregnancy if they've got something like hyperemesis, HG. And if, say, they didn't look after their nutrition prior to, and then they had a really tough time eating during the pregnancy, well, of course, there's going to be certain risks involved. And that's what we're trying to avoid in nutrition, is what can be modified here. What is a controllable risk factor? Because obviously we all have uncontrollable risk factors, age being one of them. But if we can control something, that's what we want to do. We want the best outcome.
I feel like in the for us in this space in particular, we often have people who come in who say, I just did not have the appetite during my pregnancy. I couldn't manage this. I couldn't manage that. Or yes, give me all the carby foods and sugar for energy because that's all I needed. What are you doing on the other end? Like postpartum nutrition is obviously then going to be a really important piece.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that that person who could only sustain carbohydrates throughout the entire pregnancy, we're hoping that they haven't, well, gestational diabetes has obviously been ruled out, and so that's being cared for. But if it's postpartum, we still need to be on top of their markers like their blood glucose, their blood insulin, just making sure that it hasn't caused any issues there. And if it has, we get straight on top of it, and that is through diet and certain supplementations like myo-inositol would be really supportive, magnesium. And hopefully the woman coming into a postpartum has been put on a quality magnesium to support her sleep, her mood regulation and her estrogen, now that it's taken a bit of a dive since birthing her baby, and particularly if she's breastfeeding. But we would, again, look straight at bloods and we'd start there because we want to treat that person as the individual that they are and make sure that it's really tailored treatment.
So you're talking about, well, we have spoken about the importance of hormones and what that looks like through, preconception, then pregnancy and postpartum. What are you looking for?
What are we looking for?
Yeah.
Well, it depends where we're looking. But
Yeah.
in that preconception phase, we want to make sure that, yes, she has optimal estrogen levels when she's supposed to in the first half of her cycle, in her follicular phase.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that her follicular stimulating hormone and her luteinizing hormone, also known as FSH and LH, are within range.
Yeah.
If we were to see one significantly elevated, this would be a marker of, oh, does this woman have PCOS? Do we need to rule out an underlying health condition first before we even conceive? Because that's really important for the duration of the pregnancy in itself and the success of it going beyond first trimester.
Yeah.
We're looking at her testosterone, we're looking at her progesterone levels, but we're looking at that in the second half of her cycle, in her luteal phase. We want to make sure that that progesterone is showing that, yes, she did ovulate, because we can't have a baby without ovulation. So these hormones are helping us to say, yes, there's ovulation happening. Okay, we've ruled that out, because we're not just going to rule out what's happening with the woman. We need to also rule out what the sperm is doing as well. So yes, we can test all these hormones, but we need to look at the whole picture as well. And then in pregnancy, we're not really looking at hormones unless it's progesterone, because we do need sufficient progesterone to hold a healthy pregnancy in that first trimester. It's the placenta's job. The woman's job, and then the placenta takes over. So it's really, really important that progesterone stays during that first trimester, because that can be a reason that women do have a miscarriage in their first trimester, is because progesterone drops.
So then we're talking postpartum. So what are the hormones even doing?
We don't want to look into hormones too early on, because they're going to fluctuate like mad. And that's what hormones do. They do fluctuate a lot, particularly progesterone, about 9-fold every 60 minutes. We want to just say, what's her thyroid doing? That's going to be one of the most important things, because about 1 in 10 women will develop thyroiditis, so inflammation of the thyroid gland postpartum. That's a big statistic. So we want to make sure that her saying, I'm so tired, I feel like I'm not losing any weight, my hair this, or my skin feels dry, whatever the symptom, we can't just put it down to, you had a baby and you're depleted. That's not fair. That's not fair in any sense. When you've got symptoms, that's your body's way of saying, hey, listen, I got something to say. And it's so hard to hear that when you're looking after a newborn, but also equally important to get yourself checked at that 6-week mark as well as your baby. And it's not really routine for a lot of doctors to do that, or a lot of people, but it's something I really encourage my clients when I'm working with them in their pregnancy. I said, hey, go have your baby. 6 weeks later, I'll write you a referral. You're going to get some bloods done. We're not going to go mad, but we want to know what your iron's doing, what your B12 is up to, what your liver function and your electrolytes are doing, and importantly, your thyroid gland, because you're going to lose a lot of these nutrients through your breast milk, and your demands, if you are breastfeeding, going to be so much higher than even in pregnancy. And even in pregnancy, women struggle to get their iron levels in. So what's breastfeeding going to look like? So it's just, I definitely really encourage people to look at their thyroid postpartum.
Okay. So prior to that 6-week mark, things are, like you said, fluctuating quite a lot. But can you get a pretty good picture from the 6 weeks bloods, like where you need to support and what kind of needs to be done?
Absolutely, when it comes to things like iron, because a lot of women will lose a lot of iron in their birth. Even, well, the important one is the hemoglobin. I remember when I birthed Sylvie, I couldn't stand up. I felt like my lungs were actually about to collapse into my chest, a feeling I've never felt before. And I was like, wow, I can't breathe if I'm standing up. I feel my breath very shallow within the top portion of my lungs. And they're like, let's go check your hemoglobin. Surely enough, it came back at 90.
Wow.
Do you want an infusion while you're here? I said, no. Just give me a day. Give me a day. Let me get home. I'll get back onto it. And surely enough, when I had my 6-week bloods, I got it up within that time from supplementation and things like pate and liver capsules and lots of red meat.
Yeah, amazing. So do you feel like you live by the food is medicine that we hear so many people who are nutritionists talk about?
No, not entirely. I think if you had have asked me that 13 years ago, I would have said yes. Ask me now, medicine is medicine. I've seen what medicine can do, not only personally, but with someone within my family who it was life-saving. Food is not life-saving. Food is preventative.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important for people to know about when it comes to illness, disease. Whilst we cannot control the hand we're dealt, we can definitely control our quality of life while we're here. And I think eating a really healthy, balanced diet, and not one, I don't want to ever use the word clean. I don't believe in clean eating. I just think of whole foods, wholesome, 80-20. And then I think you're really going to get the best out of your food if you eat that way.
Love it. I feel like most people, you know, do hear that, particularly if you're like a one way of thinking or the other, it's that food is medicine and that's kind of it. But I love that you're like, though they both have their place of importance. So
they do. And I don't see myself as a complementary practitioner. I see myself as, and I should have said that again. I don't see myself as an alternative practitioner. I'm complementary. So if someone comes to me like, cool, I'm on 10 different medications, it's my job to understand the pharmacokinetics of that medication so I can best support them.
Yeah, amazing. If someone was planning to conceive, when's the best time to come and see you?
The moment they said, I want a baby.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but I would love it if that was.
Yeah.
But honestly, the moment you have decided, we want a baby, let's do this, that's when you should start to go, all right, let's get some bloods. Let's do a semen analysis. Let's pull back on a few lifestyle things.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
just some considerations. So honestly, that is the best time. But if that's not possible and they're still, in pre-contemplation, which a lot of people are, they need to have that conversation if they're doing it with a partner. And if obviously if they're doing it alone, they can do it whenever. But 3 months is ideal before trying. Yeah. 6 months is gold star.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about things that people come and see you for that, they might say, this certain health professional told me that I should be doing this and it's a complete misconception. Like, is there things like that for you in your practice that you experience readily?
I do have a lot of people coming to see me who have spent some time seeing integrative doctors and maybe they got some results but not the ones that they really wanted. And that's nothing against the integrative GP. It might have just been not the right fit for them. Usually that's stuff to do with gut health, but I think a lot of people struggle with that because it is so restrictive when you're doing gut work, and I don't blame them. Who wants to restrict their diet for 12 plus weeks? And sometimes they just need a second opinion or to start again. Yeah. So there's elements of that. When it comes to the preconception world, I think there's a lot of myths out there about what you shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of red tape, just like there is with you're pregnant, don't bend over. It's like, you're not a delicate flower, you're a strong woman carrying a baby here. Yeah. And it's about understanding what's the red area, what's the gray, what's the green. And again, it has to be tailored. So if you do have a condition, whether again it's your thyroid, your celiac, you've got PCOS, endo, how can we treat you as the individual that you are to make sure that you're not worrying about the myths, you're not worrying about what anyone else is doing. What are you doing that's going to benefit your situation? You often hear people say, don't eat soy, don't eat gluten, don't eat dairy. But, well, full-fat dairy can show really promising results for high AMH levels. So why would we pull that out of the diet if someone has no issues with lactose or any of the proteins within milk? I think there's a lot of misconceptions. People think dairy is inflammatory. That's, again, a misconception. Again, if you are not intolerant to something, enjoy. If you have no issues with gluten, why would you take it out of your diet? It's not inflammatory. That's just what has been riddled within wellness, which I like to call it, which is a real thing.
I love that word.
And it's true. Like, just because someone can't have something doesn't mean someone else cannot. So no, I don't believe in pulling things out of your diet just because you've heard it's inflammatory or there's an issue with it. I think you need to have the blood work to support that, the symptoms to support that. Are you getting mouth ulcers? Okay, maybe there's an issue going on here. Let's check in with that. Let's not ignore that. Again, we don't ignore symptoms. Yeah. I think where people are afraid to change habits within the preconception space is if they don't like eating meat, they don't like eating animal products, they don't, maybe seafood. A lot of my clients come in like, oh, you're going to make me eat salmon. I hate fish. I'm like, well, I'm not going to make you eat it, but this is what happens if you do. And hey, let's do a fish oil if you're not happy with that. Or we go an alternative and we look at an algae oil. There's always going to be an alternative, but what is the most bioavailable? What's going to be the best for you? And do you want the best outcome?
Yeah, great. I think my assumption is that lots of people are coming to see you potentially if they're in that planning phase because they maybe have some pre-existing reproductive issues like PCOS, that maybe that's what they're hoping to get some help with. How do you treat or how do you approach people who have reproductive issues like PCOS or endo coming to see you?
I absolutely have people coming in that phase that they've just made the decision, but I also equally have as many women who are going through IVF come to me as well. And sometimes that's because there's unexplained infertility, which I'm never happy with that answer. So I'm helping them to, dig, and let's find an answer here.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time IVF because of endometriosis, absolutely. PCOS, definitely not as common as endo in my clinic, surprisingly. I think just because more women have found out about the endo, which is great to see because we know it takes on average 7 years for a diagnosis. PCOS is something that sometimes I help people uncover just because they haven't had the testing done. So again, if I'm sending them off for blood work, which I would with every client, if the symptoms are there, I will also encourage talk to your doctor about getting an internal ultrasound. Let's rule out PCOS. You're not going to get endo ruled out with an internal ultrasound. Some people believe they will, they won't. The definitive way would be a laparoscopy. And unfortunately, that can be very delayed in medical world, even though the woman has been trying for 18 months. It's like, there's alarm bells. Let's just do the laparoscopy. What's the big deal? They'll come back and like, thank you for encouraging me to do that. It is endo. So that shouldn't be my job. My job isn't to diagnose. But if I see enough red flags, I will comfortably push that client to go get further testing. That doesn't really answer your question, sorry.
That's okay, but it's a good background behind
I'm a bit of a cheerleader. I like to hype my babes up. But I think I'm, like I said to you in our last episode, I'm very confident and advocating for myself when it comes to my health. And I think I like to try and support women who do come to see me and advocating for their own health as well, particularly if they have been trying for longer than a year and they're not getting any answers and no further testing. But endo, PCOS is just the same as anything else. Blood work, symptomology, dietary changes. If we're looking at someone who has within their PCOS all three of the criteria, which would be high androgen, so things like high testosterone, she might have an irregular cycle, and she's also got the polycystic ovaries upon investigation. We have to go, in addition to your diagnostic criteria, do you have insulin resistance? Do you have an issue with estrogen? We need to look at all the other factors as too, because we need to treat what's actually underlying the PCOS.
Okay, so you're gathering all your evidence before, and assumably that's regardless of a umbrella diagnosis is going to be what's really important before you modify anything.
Totally. You've got PCOS. You go to the doctor and say, well, I've got PCOS. What's next? They go, we'll lose 5 kilos. Life will be sweet. That could be a lean woman presenting with PCOS, which is very common. Not the most common in PCOS, sure. We know that a lot of women with PCOS tend to have a higher BMI, which we need to also control within a fertility journey. We do need to bring it down for best results. But there are still lean women out there being told to lose weight as a way of managing her PCOS. So if that was in my clinic, I'm not talking about her weight. I'm just talking about her insulin, her fasting blood glucose, what's accompanying the PCOS. And I want to get her to bleed again because we know that women who don't have a bleed, this is really problematic for neuroplasia forming within the endometrial tissue, which is when she doesn't have a bleed and it builds up over time. Without the bleed, we need to get that bleed happening for the health to avoid things like a high risk of endometrial cancer later on. That sounds really
complex.
Heavy. It's so important for a woman to bleed if she's not on things like the Mirena and the pill that are actually blocking those steroid hormones from being formed.
Yeah. Do you have many women come to you who are that far in their planning but haven't come off their contraceptives?
No, I don't think I've ever seen that, to be honest. I've definitely seen women come to me on the other end wanting help with what contraception would be best for them.
Yeah.
And again, it's not really my job, but I'll give them the pros and cons.
Yeah, sure.
Like, at the end of the day, she can make an informed decision.
Yeah. So we've obviously spoken a lot about, the things that people can do to help use nutrition to support them on their journey, whether it be preconception, during pregnancy, and then obviously postpartum as well. Where can people learn to actually find out about where to get a hold of you or have you as their nutritionist?
All your typical ways: Instagram, my website, my phone number. I'm not really active on TikTok yet. Is that that's a really hard one, isn't it?
It's not my jam, but
I'm going to try next year maybe. This year feels too hard. No, mostly Instagram is where I have a lot of connections with, and people will just go directly through my website, through Instagram, or send me an email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. I've got one last question for you. If you could offer one piece of advice to anyone on their reproductive health journey, what would it be?
To not just be satisfied with normal sperm parameters, to make sure that it is better than normal. It's healthy sperm. And remember that sperm, between being created and ejaculated, it's about a 72, 74-day process. So, yeah, you might have some healthy spunk 1 month, but it doesn't mean in a year's time that's still the same sperm. So if you're trying for longer than a year and you're going off one sperm analysis, then it's time for another one. But also, the woman will always take the burden. Every client who comes through my clinic feels that burden. Remember that it is a shared one if you're doing this with a partner. And just to let that burden soften, you're doing the best job you can do. And it's always okay to do and try something else and to take the second option and to get a second opinion, if not a third.
Love it. Aim for healthy spunk. I love that line. But also second opinion is
crucial.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jennalea, for coming and chatting.
Anytime.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, based on the best available information at the time of recording, we will welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website, contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.